Have you ever just stopped and wondered, what makes you you? Or what it really means to live a good life? Well, it turns out those aren't just random late-night thoughts. They are the absolute heart of a discipline that has shaped human history for thousands of years. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that very discipline with a beginner's guide to philosophy.
So let's just dive right into the big one, the question that's probably on your mind right now. We've all heard the word philosophy. You probably picture old guys with beards and giant dusty books. But what does it actually mean? It is a totally fair question, and trust me, you are not the first person to ask it. And here's the thing. That little bit of confusion, that's actually part of the whole process. See, unlike math or biology, philosophy doesn't really have a neat, tidy, one-sentence definition. It's a field where the meaning kind of reveals itself to you the deeper you go. So I want you to think of this not as some boring lecture, but as the beginning of a quest. A real quest for understanding, for clarity, and, for a little bit of wisdom. We're not just here to memorize facts. We're learning how to think about the biggest questions out there. Now, every good quest needs a map, right? And for this explainer, our map comes straight from some amazing course materials on philosophy and logic, put together by the National Open University of Nigeria. This gives us a really solid academic foundation for our entire journey. We're going to be drawing from this well-structured source to guide us through what can be a pretty fascinating landscape of ideas. So let's start with the word itself. The word itself actually gives us our first major clue. It's made up of two Greek words, philos, which means love, and sophia, which means wisdom. So at its absolute core, philosophy is simply the love of wisdom. It's not about pretending you have all the answers. It's about the passionate, lifelong pursuit of understanding. Okay, so now we know what's driving this whole thing, this love of wisdom. So let's take a look at the main territories on our philosophical map. These are the major branches of philosophy, and each one is focused on a really different set of fundamental questions. First up, we've got metaphysics. Oh yeah, this is the big one. It tackles the most fundamental questions about existence itself. I mean, think about it. Is the world around you really just physical stuff? Or is there something more to it, like a soul or consciousness? Why is there something here instead of just nothing? Metaphysics is all about asking, what is real? So if metaphysics asks what's real, our next stop, epistemology, asks a slightly different question. How could we ever know? Seriously, how can you be absolutely certain you're not in a dream right now? What's the real difference between just believing something and truly knowing it? Epistemology digs into the very nature of knowledge itself. Next, we wander into the territory of ethics, or what some call moral philosophy. And this branch is intensely practical. It's all about questions of right and wrong, good and bad. What is it that makes an action the right thing to do? Do we have responsibilities to other people? Is there one right way to live your life? Ethics is what gives us the tools to think through our choices. And finally, we have the one tool that's absolutely essential for navigating all these other areas: logic. Logic is the study of correct reasoning. It doesn't care what you believe, it cares about the structure of your arguments. It gives us the rules to tell the difference between a good, solid argument and just plain faulty reasoning. You could say it's the engine that makes philosophy run. All right, so we've got our map with all the main regions marked out. But how do we actually, explore them? What are the tools we're supposed to use to dig into these massive questions? Well, let's open up the philosopher's toolkit. The first, and probably the most famous tool in the box, is the Socratic method. It's named after Socrates, who famously said the only thing he knew for sure was that he knew nothing. It's basically a way of having a disciplined conversation. You start by admitting you don't have the answer. You ask a ton of questions. You uncover hidden contradictions, and through that back and forth, everyone arrives at a much clearer understanding. Now, inside philosophy, there's this classic, centuries-old debate about how we get knowledge in the first place. On one side, you have the rationalists. They argue that true knowledge comes from pure reason. Think about it. You know that 2 + 2 = 4 without needing to go out and test it with apples. But on the other side, you have the empiricists. They say, nope, all real knowledge comes from our senses. You know a stove is hot because you felt that heat. This clash between reason and experience is one of the great historical debates. Now, philosophy isn't something that just stays the same. It has this long, rich, and complicated history. The map we're looking at today has been drawn, erased, and completely redrawn over thousands of years. So let's take a quick flight through the major eras of Western philosophy. It all kicks off in the ancient age, with the Greeks like Socrates and Plato asking these huge questions about reality and how to live a good life. That then flows into the medieval age, where thinkers like Thomas Aquinas tried to square philosophy with religious faith. Then, boom, the modern age, kicked off by guys like Descartes, shifted the focus to individual reason and doubt. And that brings us to the contemporary age, with this explosion of totally new movements and questions that are still shaping our world right now.
So we've looked at the what, the how, and the when of philosophy, but all of that leads us to the most important question of all. Why? Why should any of this matter to you in your day-to-day life?
I mean, really, is this all just some abstract intellectual game? Is it a debate club for people who just have way too much time on their hands? Is it totally removed from the real world? Well, the answer, coming straight from our source material, is a definite, resounding no.
See, philosophy isn't just abstract. It's an incredibly practical toolkit for living. It trains you to think more clearly, more critically, which helps you cut through all the noise and misinformation we're bombarded with every day. It helps you figure out what you actually value, what's important to you, which gives you a solid sense of direction. It really sharpens your ability to break down complex problems, and that makes it a powerful tool for living a more intentional life.
And all of this brings us to one of the most powerful and famous statements in the history of philosophy, from the man who basically started it all, Socrates. The unexamined life is not worth living. I mean, that's the ultimate call to action, isn't it? Philosophy matters because thinking about our lives, trying to understand ourselves and the world, that's what gives our lives meaning. And so our little tour ends right where your own personal journey begins. We've given you a map of the territories. We've shown you what's inside the toolkit. The only thing left to ask is, what is real? How do I know? How should I act? What fundamental question will you start with?